Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Cyber. We've got a fair few more people just coming in now. So, just to introduce everyone, this is the AMA for CybertoothKat's Book of Alchemy launch that we had on Copper last week or last few days. Cybertooth, you were bouncing there with Trips about your sort of thoughts and uh, precip- what's it? Thoughts and insights before going into the launch. How are you feeling now that you've come this far and gotten that successful project for Chaos Lab?
Well, we knew it was an experiment. I was working with Ree, who is on the senior on the Alchemist team. He heads up the copper development, and we had a couple of months of conversations, just making sure that we would launch at the right time and have everything in order. It all came out really good. What we're looking forward to now, of course, is okay. We clearly have a really invested community here. People have come and shown just how excited they are about this property, and what does it look like from here? What does a use case look like? What does the broader intellectual property hint at, coming for the future? And of course, I've had ideas on these things all along. My professional experience in the video game industry is heading up projects just like this, heading up large creative projects for internationally diverse audiences and hundreds of thousands or even millions of players. So I have a bit of a roadmap, of course, just from my past experience, but nevertheless, the crypto space is different. Book of Alchemy is a very distinct intellectual property, and it lives as sort of a subset of the broader alchemist mythos. And to answer your question, kind of in a word, I'm just really excited about how we can position this and just all the wonderful things that creatively and even from a crypto perspective, from an NFT perspective, all the wonderful things that we might do going forward. And one thing that I'm excited to do, and I think some other members of the team are excited to do, is to partner with the community to a certain degree, to decide just what those things should be as we do go forward.
Awesome. Thanks for that answer, Cyber. It sounds like it was quite a process for you to sort of come all this way, working with the seniors, working with various members of the team. I'd love to go back to the start as you were sort of coming into Alchemist. How how was the journey from the start? I know there was a lot of development and art that came before you settled on the sort of distinct style that you have for Book of Alchemy now.
Yeah, so I was first introduced to Alchemist back in the spring, and I had just missed they had an NFT, kind of an NFT design contest, if you will. And I think that had set the bar kind of high on what some people in the community were able to do artistically. But I missed that. I came in after that. And I began to just collaborate with some people in the space that were artistically minded and, that were beginning to develop some of the behind the scenes art style and things for Alchemist. And that gave me a little bit of a heads up on where some things were going. But then I took a month or two and just kind of explored the broader crypto universe. I just wanted to kind of get an idea for what other communities were doing, either in parallel with or contrasted with Alchemist. So I spent a little bit of time doing that. And then I came back sort of full tilt to the Alchemist community right about the time that Chaos Lab was launched. I think the same week that I kind of landed back in the Discord, like, hey guys, I really want to do some stuff here. The Chaos Lab launch, which was a really wonderful platform where so many of us that have different skills, some artistic, some coding and development, some marketing, some just various slice of life interests. We all just kind of got together and began to talk about what sort of things could we do in the alchemist community. And I began to just make a lot of art. To be honest with everyone here, I loved the idea of an alchemist. I love the idea of the just all the visuals that go with old laboratories and bubbling cauldrons and crucibles and that type of stuff. And so I began to make some educational materials. The first week I was in Chaos Lab, someone popped in and said, "Hey, this Crucible thing is really cool, but I wish we had some sort of visual PSAs of how an inflation event works and stuff like that. And I didn't know myself. So I said, why don't you tell me, how does an inflation event work? I had a Crucible, but I didn't understand all the mechanics of it. And so we iterated a bit and I made what I feel like was a pretty nice graphic exploring how the Crucible works. In fact, I just posted it on Twitter yesterday in response to something that another community was posting as they're collaborating with alchemists. So that graphic, I think, kind of grabbed people's attention. And so people began to correspond with me in more private chat saying, hey, have you thought about designing something like this or something like this? And I just began to continue creating things until I landed on something that I felt was a good cross section of sort of the whole mythos of Alchemist. And I designed it as a playing card. That card, after some input from some people in the Chaos Lab, became the card of holding that was in the NFT drop the other day, where you have sort of a Gorgon head in the center, sort of a Medusa head, and she's cut out of a central circle and that type of thing. And then there was an idea between me and some others in the community to actually do sort of like 3D rotating cards with some simulated 3D space and cutaways and light effects and stuff. And maybe also to do some alternate variants. And so I spent a week or two sort of pinning some of that down and really finalizing the art style. And then I knew, hey, we ought to do a drop with this thing. And right about the time I began to talk in Chaos Lab that I might be interested to do a drop, Copper was just coming to a place where Ree was like, yeah, maybe we could do an NFT drop on Copper. So he and I began to speak. Looked like it was a good idea. I set a number in my mind of how many NFTs I wanted to have, got them done. And then it became clear that Copper was going to be a few more weeks before it was ready. So I said, let's double the number. And so I doubled the number of NFTs, made some all new art and some all new cards and some all new variants until I had a good 40 of them. And then Copper was ready and we said, hey, let's see what happens here.
Awesome, awesome. Quite a history you've got there. Too many trips. Do you have a few more questions you'd like to ask?
Well, I know one thing probably everybody here is interested in is the Pope. We're gonna get a link up for that somewhere so all of these attendees can get their Pope.
Yeah, that's going into radio hotline now. Well, I've got that though. Any questions?
I mean, I don't have anything at the moment that I can think of, but maybe the audience wants to ask a few here.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, let's take a few audience questions. Crypto Thuggin coming up.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Great, man. How are you?
Hey, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks for allowing me up. Yeah, so I mean, I am on time, right? We're 8 minutes in. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So, yeah, there's been, I was really hyped about the project and I appreciate everything you guys are doing, for the Alchemist, NFT. And I just think that it's really cool that you guys stepped up and actually did this. Like, I wanted to ask actually, sorry if there's background noise. I'm kind of outside, but I just wanted to ask, have you guys decided that if there is going to be a use case for the NFTs? Maybe I know there was some ideas that I had seen or thought of about, maybe depositing the NFT into our Crucible and maybe getting like, an extra reward or something like that. Has that came to mind? Have you guys thought about that?
Yes, so absolutely. We're having quite a few conversations about potential use case now. Some of them right along the lines of a few things that you mentioned there. The seniors on the Alchemist team, I think, are very, very keen to make that happen as well. We all collectively absolutely want to give you the best experience you can with the intellectual property and with the NFTs that you have invested into. So the short answer is yes. Use case is absolutely the top thing on our radar right now. In those conversations, in true alchemist fashion, I don't want to say too many forward facing statements, but we submitted sort of an itinerary of potential use case scenarios to the senior alchemist team. I think some of it was well received. And when those conversations began to really kick off, I actually said, you know what, guys, let's get an AMA in first. The community began to ask for the AMA, and I said, you know what, we've got some good ideas here. Let's all do a few days of due diligence. Let's get the AMA in first. And there's a thing I'll announce sort of towards the end of the AMA here that I think will help you understand why we didn't want to really make too many decisions before having this conversation. But yes, use cases are something that we're actively discussing and in development. The senior team is part of those discussions. It's a top priority for us. So we're going to have the AMA today. Get people's questions, get a feeling for how you guys are all feeling about it. Make sure you know that we are accessible. And then we've got a particular way that we're going to connect with you guys going forward, so that as we begin to unveil some of these things and really solidify some of those things, we want to partner with you guys in that process and get your upfront ideas and opinions on some things, so that we can have a really collaborative approach with those of you who hold those NFTs. Because many hands make light work, and also we just want you guys to really recognize that you're a vital part of this community, and we're interested in your thoughts and feelings on things. So the short answer, yes, use case is a top priority, and we're working on it.
Nice. Now, have you guys thought about, I mean, for the holders now, have you thought about like maybe an actual, I don't know if you guys are going to make a game later on or something, but actual playing cards? Because I'm so stoked on the artwork, and just, being able to maybe hold one of those is like, it would be so dope.
Let me simply say that, as I said earlier, the first actual art I created for Book of Alchemy, which featured that Gorgon, the card of holding, is, this is a Book of Alchemy, but notice that the NFTs are called cards. And I think that's a subtle way to give an answer to your question.
Okay. And will there be more of the cards? And are you planning on, I mean, because this round was obviously it was kind of high, but it wasn't. But I was just wondering, are you planning on dropping something that might be a little bit more affordable for, like, the community, I guess you can say?
Yeah, so I think you had kind of two questions there. Will there be more cards? Again, I don't want to make too many forward-facing statements, but I literally dropped art on Twitter about a half an hour before the show that shows some pencil art in development, just to let the community know that more art is already happening. Will it be quote unquote cards? Possibly, but that's another area where I want to present some scenarios to the actual community, and get a sense of what you guys are really looking for here. So I'm making some prototype art that I can actually float, to the community and say, hey, let's get some feedback from you guys on this. So to the cards aspect, there was that. The second part of your question was, is there a way to sort of make some of this a little bit more affordable to the community? And that's a thing that's important to me, but at the same time, without in any way diminishing, sort of the baseline of what early adopters, if you will, have come in and been willing to put up front. So yes, and that's another area where we have ideas. What I would like to do is create, again, sort of some prototype things and do a pitch, and kind of set it to a vote in the community. Again, towards the end of the AMA here, I'm going to kind of let you know a platform that's coming where we can interact more directly, where we can do some iterative stuff. So yes, all those things are things that we're very keen to do. Can't make any promises right now, but we just had the one successful drop. We're already in some wonderful conversations about where it goes from here. But for myself, saying kind of, again, I really wanted to make sure that the community knew that we were interested in giving you sort of a voting mechanism. We were interested in giving you sort of a vote. If you hold one of the NFTs, if you've been someone who came in and said, hey, I put real money down for this and now I'm invested in this thing, we want you to have a voice in that process. So yes, all of those things are potentials that are in the works, and we're going to do it a bit collaboratively.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for your time and everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, CryptoThugging. Thanks for your questions. I saw a few other hands go up while we were talking. Did anyone else have a question they'd like to direct? I know we've got a few of the seniors in the room as well. Did any of you want to comment on the project and your reflections there? I don't think we have Ree here to talk from the copper side, but they probably don't want me to throw them under the bus.
I'd like to bring up, I see Mecca 95 in the audience. I'm not sure if Phantom is in there, but I would like to bring up the musicians because
It's a
maybe they'd
great
like to talk a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, Mecca and where's Phantom? Phantom, do you guys want to come up?
Yo, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, how you going?
Good. How you guys doing?
Great, great to have you here, Mecca. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
you had music on featured. You and Phantom both had your music featured on the tracks and the score for the Book of Alchemy NFTs. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the process from your perspective?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Cybertooth reached out to me a little while ago here and just mentioned that he was looking for some original scored music for these NFTs, and really the ones that caught my eye and the ones that I thought were super cool were the Dark Chaos variants. And so I was like, hey, I'd love to make tracks for specifically these ones. And he was like, yeah, have at it. And, you know, it was a really cool kind of thing to take a project on like this where you can see art that's there and try and make something that fits the vibe and you know, the feel of what you see. It's different from other production projects that I've taken on in the past. And so it was really cool to have like a piece of source work to go off of and to try and craft something special to that specific piece of art, something that, you know, other art's not going to have, and just to really try and make something unique out of it. So it was a really cool process, and I'm just thankful to be involved with it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Mecca. Phantom, did you have something to add? I can't hear Phantom. Can anyone else hear Phantom?
No, I can tell he's talking, but we're not getting what you're saying, sir. Maybe while he tries to work out any mic issues he has, I'll talk just for a minute about why I was so keen to bring on a couple of really great musicians to the project. So we had Phantom, excuse me, already in the community, and I had been exposed to his music, I think actually through too many trips, and just loved it. And I knew immediately that it had just the right kind of vibe that I wanted for specifically for the Golden Mortal variants. And what I had been using was when I pitched some of these prototypes, I went to the YouTube free music library, and there's some nice stuff on there, but it says free, etc. But I think it's mostly free for YouTube, and I was concerned about copyrights, etc. And plus, I just really wanted to partner with musicians who I could collaborate with directly, you know, in case we wanted to do any iteration or things like that. And more importantly, I wanted to partner with musicians that were that were interested in the Alchemist. And we had Phantom. I knew it would be a great idea. And he came right on board, said, yeah, man, I'll make stuff. But I said, yeah, my gosh, dude, we've got, 40 NFTs here. I don't want you to have to make it all, even though I think he was more than willing. I didn't want to tax anybody's schedule because I came to him a bit late, honestly. Mecca 95 actually had been an early collaborator with me in crypto itself. Mecca 95 kind of initially onboarded me into the whole idea of NFTs many months ago. And I knew, because we've done collaborative projects before, I knew his music would also be really fantastic. So I just reached out to both of them, asked them would they be interested. They were very enthusiastic about it, and what they turned in I felt was perfect. And it was so great for me over the course of the launch to have people getting the NFTs who maybe hadn't heard the music. They had seen stuff on my Twitter or things with some of the old music, etc., and to have them open those up and play it and say, I've loved the art, but the music on this thing is adding so much, and really making it amazing. And I just think it turned out super well.
Awesome. Phantom, do you think your mic is working now, sir? Might come back to your thoughts. No luck, sir. We have one other person. No, they've dropped off. Cyber, I have a question for you. In terms of how you build your brand subsequent to this, I know you don't want to make too many forward-seeking statements, and I think that's a really wise approach. But is this something that you see doing as sort of your main focus going forward, and is it something that you want to extend to lots of different directions? I know, having met you outside the Alchemist space fairly early on, I know you've got a lot of creative background in being a creative director and a lot of experience in games. Without sort of pressing you to speak too much on anything specific, is what sorts of things would you like to do with Book of Alchemy, even if nothing's pinned down yet?
Yeah. So to frame my answer, this is me speaking to a broader community saying these are things that I would like to do. Okay. So
Yeah. Stressing all hypotheticals, sir.
yes, yes. To answer the true spirit of church's question, like if we're dreaming really big, what would we like to do? And so to frame it a bit, because some of these things if I had no framework for it, I would just say pass, we're not doing that. But I've done quite a bit in the creative professional industry. I've even written and directed, sort of like really high end trailers for video games and things like that with all original characters and full CGI budgets, and like $1.5 million sort of productions for a 90-second feature. So I kind of have a background in getting that stuff done and in guiding the creative for it. So if we were to say, hey, what's your pinnacle? I totally believe we'll do more NFTs. And I think everything that we do specifically with the NFT community in mind and bringing as much value and as much bandwidth to this initial drop as humanly possible. So let me just take a second before I give you some of my dream scenarios and tell you, if you're holding one of these, I personally believe, A, you will not be sorry. And B, don't be quick to sell it because you might want to have some stone hands for just a month or two, while you kind of see where this goes. And by all means, if you need to flip it, you need to sell it. I mean, I would love to see action on the secondary market. Nobody would be happier to see that than me. But if you've invested in us this far, I see some of you have got these listed for really worthy prices. I applaud you for that because I think holding it for a minute and I think watching where this goes, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So the dream pitch is, if you want to know what I'd really like to see, is I'd like to see a streaming animated series on a prominent streaming network. And I don't think that's a pipe dream. I think that's, hey, with a little bit of stars aligning, that might really be where this thing is headed. And I'm already writing things to that effect. That's kind of how big I see the Book of Alchemy. And partnering with the alchemist community is to really take this thing mainstream. What you may not know is many, many things that you see hinted at in the NFTs you're holding, there's a story behind it. And as I said, I've begun to write those stories and I began to flesh out how those stories might evolve. And you say, are you any good at it? Well, I've done it professionally for, 10 years on some large IPs. So yeah, I think we can get it done. Merchandise is something we've been talking about. I think merchandise is a thing that we have our radar on. Again, can't make any promises. We have our radar on it. And how can we produce merchandise and give something back to the people that hold the NFT that has art featured on the merchandise? How can we do that? We're keen to do some of that stuff as well. It's another way where we just really want to partner with you guys. So I see this as a project that's not, it's not CybertoothKat's Book of Alchemy anymore. It was initially, I think, but really this is a collaborative, iterative effort between a small, agile team and a broader community, and we have some pretty big dream goals in mind.
Awesome. Thanks for giving that background, Cyber. Really appreciate it. So just to hone in on part of that, when you say forming community, is that something you're doing for all the Book of Alchemy holders?
So we have already begun the framework to create, if you will, sort of a gated Discord, which most likely will be right here in the existing Alchemist Discord, where if you hold one of these NFTs, you can come into a sort of a lounge area behind the scenes and interact directly with those of us that are on the team, those of us that you see up on the stage here, perhaps a few others, and see some early sneak peeks of things in development, get an opportunity to cast a vote for how some of the future projects might shape up. Just what are the more salient elements that might be featured in those. To be the first to hear, statements, if you will, press releases, informational elements, to hear it a day or two before sort of the broader Twitterverse gets a hold of that stuff. And to just be, to have that, you've invested so heavily. We wanted to give you a behind the scenes track where you could hear things and see things first and put your finger kind of on the pulse of it, and give us a bit of feedback and then even specifically vote, on some distinct initiatives. So that's what I've hinted at a couple of times here, that we were going to kind of make an announcement. I believe the technology is in place. I believe this thing is already, if you will, 75-80% set up. The announcement will most likely come in the next 24 hours, and you'll be able to to hop in and get access to that if you're an NFT holder. Of course, if you're not an NFT holder, but you're really excited about this project, the main communication channels for this project will be right here in the Alchemist Discord. I'm always prevalent on many, many channels. It's not like I'm going to disappear behind the curtains. My main initiative here was to stay as active and as available as ever, while continuing to get collaboration and guidance, from the senior team, and just as importantly, from the broader community at large. So those are things that we intend to announce imminently. The ability to come into that, if you will, that gated discussion. But we're going to be available all throughout the Alchemist ecosystem as well.
Excellent. This is really exciting. Looking forward to see how it grows and what comes out of it. Should be the exciting subculture. Really a testimony to how far one can go in Alchemist, with a little bit of self initiative and drive. It's been a pleasure observing you come into this space, Cyber, from initial discussions and really pushing on this. I know there were a lot of different weaves and turns along the way that led to this. So it's a really good outcome, I think. Just to give Phantom another chance to chime in. Phantom, do you think you have your mic situation sorted? I'm going to take a no unmute as a no. But still a pleasure to have you up here on the stage, just to talk a bit about Phantom's involvement as well, guys. From my perspective, he's similar to Mecca. He had helped score and write produce original music for your pieces there, Cyber. Did you want to give a little bit of a highlight on that, just so people understand Phantom's involvement?
Yeah, to speak to it real quick, and it's a bummer that his mic is not working, but I think that Phantom is a guy who's already kind of prolific in the music space, in that some of his music, I know I've seen it on SoundCloud. There may even be other places where you can get it. But if you loved the tidbits that you got, for 20 seconds here and there in these NFTs, I've seen whole albums and rocked out to them for hours on end. And I wouldn't be shy to reach out to Phantom in a Discord message or something, say, hey, how can I hear more of your stuff? Because you will not be sorry. Mecca also, I've heard a fair amount of his music as well, and I know he has sort of a mixtape or two out that he has done in the Alchemist Radio. In fact, I tweeted about a link to YouTube for one of them just a couple of weeks ago. So these guys do have music in the space, and I'd encourage you to reach out to them and find out how you can learn more about their talents, because they're not just Book of Alchemy teammates. These guys are thriving musicians in their own right. But Phantom when we brought him on, we just had kind of a side conversation and talked about, was he interested in doing it? And he said, yeah. And within about a week or so, he had sent me, I think, 5 tracks, ranging in length from about 30 or 40 seconds to about 2.5 minutes. And I listened to them and divided them up a little bit and just saw that they were kind of perfect points on most of them to go with different kinds of the variants. Like he's got a segment of one of his tracks that's used for all the coppers, and he's got a segment of another of his tracks that's used for all the gold, and yet another segment that's on all of the base. And then Mecca, as he said, was on all of the dark chaos. So you see a bit of prevailing music across those different variant types. And it was great to just have a bit of a library to work from and be able to be kind of a creative director on that and say, wow, this track is really fantastic. What part of what beat really goes with the vibe or the salient mood of the different NFTs. It was a ton of fun for me.
Awesome, awesome. Too many trips. Were there other thoughts that you wanted to add here, sir?
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to chime in. I'm getting a question from Ed's my dog. He wanted to give a shout out to CybertoothKat and say thank you so much for the amazing art project and generosity. And Ed would like to know specifically what was the purpose of the 40 of 40 drop as far as the numbers. Was it a scarcity reason? And that's Ed's my dog's question.
So let me answer your question directly, and then I'll give you my mindset a little bit broader on NFTs. And my mindset on this is evolving, right? It's another reason why I wanted to partner with the community. But initially, I only wanted 20, just 20 NFTs. I knew I had time to do more. I knew that I could make bandwidth, even though I do a lot of things outside of Alchemist. In fact, I knew that I could push the drop back months if I wanted to in order to create more. But initially, the number I had in mind for 20 was because I really wanted to introduce, 5 characters, 5 sort of archetypes, if you will, if you're familiar with sort of like Jungian archetypes, these things that sort of tap into a deeper culture, a more prevalent, interconnected culture amongst, the broader cultures of people. And this is something that I would do in video games is they would come to me and say, hey, we need a new character. We've got this play style. It's a tanky brawler kind of glass cannon guy, or maybe it's a female, and his power set is this, and this, and they would say make something. And the first thing that I would do before I went to drawing or sketching or doing any color mock-ups was I would explore an archetype that would fit that character. And I would land on something that was culturally pervasive, something that if you were playing in Russia, you'd sort of get it. If you were playing in North America, you sort of get it. If you were playing in Southeast Asia, you'd sort of get it, because I literally knew that tens of thousands of people in each of those communities would be playing that character, and it needed to be pervasive, but it needed to tap into something subconscious a bit. So I said 20 because I knew I wanted base cards. I wanted the gold, dark, and copper. And I didn't want to flood, with too many archetypes. I wanted this to when people saw the art sight unseen, I wanted to say, okay, what is that? Because that's speaking to me. And I thought the best way to do that was with, character-based heads, if you will. Each of the cards sort of has a head on it, each of the initial 5. And so I said, we're going to do just 20. I really just want to hit a home run with, with these archetype characters. But when it got closer to the drop, I just thought to myself, 20 might not be enough. If this drop goes well, this might be a 10-minute drop, and I don't want that. And I had some additional art that was very similar, very archetypal, from my first weeks in the Alchemist community when we actually were designing sort of a card deck. And the card deck never quite came to be. It just was a thing where a lot of permutations were happening. And I just said, you know what, because those initial characters go so well and follow the same archetype theory as these new 5, and plus they've got a little bit of body to them, they've got a little bit of posturing to them. I said, let's go ahead and make this, sort of 10 in the drop, and we'll do the variants, and we'll end up with 40. And then what happened was I really wanted to add in a keeper of the book. again, thinking more about story, thinking about where the storyline was going. And when I illustrated her, I just really loved her. She happens to be my wife's absolute favorite. And by the way, if you own the Keeper of the Book NFT, you're going to get a special role in the private Discord. So again, I'm trying to keep it very narrative driven. So I said, okay, instead of doing all of the copper variants, I'll leave out one of the copper variants, and because I wanted to keep the number right at 40, and we'll put in this Keeper of the Book. So that was how the 40 fashioned. It was more than what I wanted to do. So it wasn't really about scarcity. It was more about story. It was more about making a brand that would connect with people. I do a lot of art, guys, and I didn't want to just sort of like make art, look at a great big show. I wanted this to feel very auteur. I wanted my hand to be very distinct in it. I wanted it to stand out from all other NFT art. And I think people really responded to that. I think that was a good decision ultimately. So going forward, you may ask, what about future drops and things like that? And we're talking about a second drop. There will be, I believe, a second drop, and it might not be far in the future, but we do want to make sure we're adding in all the value we can to this first one, and that we've got a good use case and a plan under our belt. Again, I'd like to keep the numbers kind of down, because I know everyone loves the big generative 10,000 projects and stuff, and it really is cool stuff, to have those on your profile picture and stuff. But Alchemists, we do things a little bit differently. We try to forge, if you will, a more deliberate path. This is not just about what sort of value can we bring to the community through an NFT. It's about how can our NFTs be connected to a much broader intellectual property that keeps giving back. And so I want to keep it story driven. And what that probably means is future drops will probably fall sort of in similar numbers, or potentially even less. Or what may happen is we'll do drops that have a similar number, but then we do some derivative elements to it as well, stuff that really breaks the mold, stuff that's really, really story driven. We hinted at this with the Keeper of the Book NFT in the last drop. She was a square aspect. She didn't do the rotating card thing. She was very, very story based, because I wanted to start to lay the groundwork for that. So I'm speaking a lot, but I hope I'm answering your question. That I kept it small purely for story reasons and to keep the brand very, very distinct. And I think we'll probably stick to that mentality for the near future. But once again, partnering with the community, getting what you guys think about things, expanding out the use case, and that will help guide us into what future drops might look like.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed's my dog, for that question through trips there. We know you're having mic issues last time. So, are there any other community questions that anyone who'd like to come up and speak, perhaps? Awesome. We're not getting any requests at the moment, Cyber. Was there anything else specifically that you'd like to cover while we're up here? Too many trips, Mecca as well, if there's any thoughts you'd like to chime in.
I just want to thank everyone. People have been really gracious. I've received so many, thank yous, and obviously people showed up in a big way for the copper drop, and I really do hope that Mecca will speak his mind in just a second too. And I'd love it if Phantom's mic could get worked out, because this is, as I said before, it's not really a CybertoothKat project. It started that way, but it's quite a bit bigger than that now. And church has really been a guiding force. And Trips, by the way, Too Many Trips, his role in this new Discord is going to be community manager. I've had my eye on him for that for some weeks, because I believe he has just the right disposition. And Too Many Trips really was the guy who came to me first and said, hey, you should think about doing an NFT drop. We did some early stuff together that, it's not Book of Alchemy, but you might still see some of it in the future. Who knows how things will go, but he's been a buddy for me right from the start. If it weren't for Too Many Trips, we wouldn't be here right now, because he's the guy who really said, hey, you've got to do this. But I just want to thank everyone, for all your support, and for how many messages I received where people like, I am super excited about this. And it's been a privilege, to see so many people gather around this and come together. And I'm in love with this community. I think everyone else here is in love with this community. The drop had a few problems. We had a couple of unexpected things, but we knew, I wish Ree were here so he could speak to it, because he deserves much congratulations. But we knew it was an alpha. We knew it was a first case test. We just wanted to say, hey, can NFTs work on fair launch, yeah, it really, really works. There's a few little things to work out, etc. But overall, I thought the drop was a huge success. So thanks to all of you. You guys have been fantastic. And maybe Mecca will say a few words here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone who's decided to take the step to get involved here. I'm really looking forward to showing you guys the unique value that we can provide in the NFT space, and for the things that are gonna come beyond that. I mean, we've got a lot of really cool ideas and plans in store. So, looking forward to sharing more of those with you guys in the future here.
Hey, and I've got a message here from Phantom's at work, and so he's just listening in and can't really speak right now. But I asked him if there was anything he wanted to say, so I will relay that real quickly. Phantom says he is very grateful to be a part of this, happy to help the community, and happy that he's involved and a part of the process. And he hopes he can still play a huge role. And he's very, very humbled that people are enjoying his music. So that's from Phantom. And I want to say thanks to CybertoothKat for the shout out. I'm very humbled and just happy to be here. I love this community and this project, and just really looking forward to see how we can all kind of come together and like grow the book and the community, and just really see what we can do with this, because I just think it's going to be really fun to see where this thing can go.
Here, too many trips. Just want to thank you, Cybertooth, Phantom, Mecca, for all your artistic contributions and the effort you've taken to grow your ideas in this space, participate with us as a group, a culture, and be the first copper NFT drop. I'm sure the whole community really appreciated when you placed the 50% of the sales into the Little, and really showed the Alchemist community what this whole experiment at large is about, not just in terms of the Book of Alchemy, but Alchemist as a whole. So again, I really want to thank you for your involvement and doing this here in this space. Really, really appreciate it. If we've got nothing else to touch on, then there's no more questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
So we've got 84 people here and still got about 15 minutes of scheduled time. So I just want to let you know we can wrap up, but I sure would love to hear from you. Anything at all, just your thoughts on how it went. Any question that you feel like, they don't want to hear that. No, I'd really love to hear it. So maybe we can take just about 30 seconds here and see if anyone else wants to raise a hand and come on and talk about things.
Oh, for sure, for sure. As you said, we do have a bit more time here, so there's no rush. And if anyone's got any questions, please just put your hand up and come up on stage. But I suppose I've got another one for you, Cyber. In terms of your art background, I know, and this is just me touching because I have a strong gaming and design background as well. Is I know some of the projects that you worked on in the past, rather than looking too far forward. I know some of the gaming development that you've done before is in the MOBA domain and various use cases there. That might be a bit different from how the NFT space operates, but I'm really eager to get your perspective on how you think the NFT space as a whole is evolving in relation to gaming as a game creative producer or director in your previous experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most exciting space in gaming right now, in my opinion. I've got four shipped titles that I've worked on, some MOBA, some, RTS, those types of things with, millions of players, some of them. Um, NFTs offer a very, very unique approach to gaming, and you can see these conversations happening on Twitter and on other places. The brilliant thing is, I think we're really early. I don't think anybody's really sort of tapped into just how to do it right just yet, but I think we're close. But the real fun stuff will come, in the months to come. There's a couple of games out there right now that are amazing, that are transforming whole communities economically and those types of things, and that's fantastic. They strike me as a little bit video game light. The game elements sometimes are a little bit underplayed to the financial elements, and that's okay because of course that's NFTs. But I'd like to see the space mature and evolve a little bit more, become a little bit more narrative centered in games, become a little bit more character centered in games, and just see, just see the gameplay married with some of the tokenomics and the NFT capacities, just a little bit more intuitively. And I think we're totally on track for it. Like, I don't have any complaints at all. I think we're just flat out early. Um, a Book of Alchemy game, could it be? I mean, of course, it could be a Book of Alchemy collectible card game. Could it be? Yeah, that's actually probably a no brainer. So we have a conversation with some of those things, and of course, I've done some of that stuff professionally. So that would require, I think, bringing just a little bit more of a diverse team, on board as far as development and that type of stuff. And maybe that's something that um, the Alchemist development community will want to partner with at some time. To be honest with you, I didn't design it initially to be an NFT game, but I didn't have sort of a handheld card game in mind. Then that quickly became, an NFT thing and NFT shows and that type of stuff. But I think there's definitely some talk about circling back to some of those things. Could really be fun.
Awesome. I think we've got a couple more questions now. That doesn't sound like a question. It just sounds rude.
That was funny though.
There's always one. Edwin, would you like to come up? I should have guessed with the name.
Yeah, that's what are you gonna do?
Edwin, you got your hand up. Would you like to come up as well?
If you got your
Huh?
hand up, you get a little green join button at the top. Sometimes it's kind of hidden, but you have to tap that in order to join the stage.
They've put their hand down now, actually. Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, we've got a bit more time. Cyber trips. If there's anything else you'd like to touch on while we're here, the stage is yours, sir. Oh, hang on, wait, no, we do have Edwin coming back. As Cyber was saying, Edwin, there should be a little. There we go. How you going?
Sorry, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Sorry, I had to exit Discord to connect my mic. Yeah, so congratulations to Cybertooth and everyone involved on successful drop. Yeah, so you guys pretty much answered every question that I had. Most of my questions involved utility and stuff, but I guess yeah, I'm just really excited to see what you guys come out with. And I guess my question is, I heard there was some talk about contacting Chico Crypto about getting a book to him or anything like that. I don't know if you guys were still interested in trying to do that, or if you guys had any success.
As far as contacting him, that would not be my area. Although I do think that has been underway. But I will tell you there is an NFT that has in essence been set aside for Chico tentatively. And that's all that I can really say about it. I'm keen to do it if it were something that would be that he would enjoy. I'm certainly keen to do it. I think we have a path where we could do it. Personally, I'm not in community. He's a big kind of famous YouTuber, and he said some wonderful things about the drop, and even read a few of my tweets, which I was very very excited about. But I don't know him, so for me, it's not a path that I could forge. But yes, of course, there has been some conversation in the Discord about could we do that. I'm open to it as far as the communication aspect of it. It's just not something that I myself am able to make happen.
Does that cover your question there? You still with us, Edwin?
Did we lose Edwin?
Oh, I can hear you, so I think we may have lost Edwin.
Okay.
And yeah, just speaking slightly to your point there, Cybertooth is we might be able to make a connection there. It's really seeing what how he feels about it personally, I think.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
more
it. He
to come on that.
want it, so
What's that, sorry?
yeah, what you're saying, he just kind of has to want it. I think, and it's okay if he doesn't, but yeah, I think over the next few days we'll see if that's a thing that all parties are agreeable to. I think we have some openness to it, but yeah, we'll see how that unfolds. It's a good question.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Sounds great.
Oh, we got Edwin back. Thanks so much, Edwin.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped out for a second. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, Discord's had a ghost lately, I think. It happened.
All right, appreciate the answer.
And I would just encourage anybody else here sitting there that thinks, "Oh, I don't want to ask that," or "That seems silly." I mean, go ahead, speak up. I know we want to hear your thoughts and opinions and likes, dislikes, questions. There's never a dumb question. So don't be afraid to get up here and ask away. Like that's what we're here for, is to listen to you guys and get feedback, because it's a community deal. So get involved and don't be shy.
Awesome. We've got another one coming up. Addo and not betting on fiat. Addo, thanks for coming up. How are you?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. How are
Yeah,
you?
thank you guys. I'm fine, thanks guys. Hey, CybertoothKat, I love your work, you know that. I appreciate a lot. I have yours one there. But I have a question. Is it possible to make like NFTs for the community? Like something like what apes have and what punks have? Something like alchemists logos for every community member.
Hey there, it's good to hear from you. I know we've had a few conversations, I think, on Twitter and things, and I see you sporting that the NFT that I sent you there is your profile pic, so that's really awesome. I think all that stuff is completely possible. That's this first show derived out of conversations and wishes and needs and wants that were in the Chaos Lab, and I think there have been some conversations along those lines that have popped up recently. Of course, for the past month, I've been really heads down on executing the show, because the show wasn't just make art and put it out there. It was, after you make the art, a rather grueling quality control process for me to make sure that every single frame of every one of those NFTs was spot on. So once the art was done, there were many hours for me, even creating spreadsheets and things, and just making sure that everything was just going to come together really well. So my attention was a bit diverted to that. But at this time, I'm still active in the Chaos Lab and always will be. And I think we'll go back in there and we'll try to revisit some of those discussions about what might, some artwork look like that's given back to the community in the form of, maybe NFTs or profile pics and those types of things. And if a collaboration arises, where some other people in the lab there are really keen on it and want to help make it happen, I, of course, am always willing to devote, some of my efforts to those types of things. So at that point, that really becomes, does the broader Chaos Lab community have an active interest in moving some of those markers across the finish line or not? I think we can get it done. I think there's definitely some interest. And so, that's a great question. And thanks for coming up to ask.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the answer. But cause I really like your style, you know that, and you have a really specific style, like what is it, 80s, 70s, and it's already attached to the alchemist community actually, cause we tweet a lot about it, and we had a lot of hype around it, if you want to say it like that. Um, and yeah, I would love to see like yeah, to have like logo, something affordable for everyone in alchemist community, what you can go out there, say like, I'm an alchemist, and everybody would see, you know, when you see the apes, when you see the punks, you know, there is a community behind it on Discord, and alchemist is getting quite strong there. So that would be a great asset to it. So great to hear that you're working on it or want to work on it. I hope that you guys can manage that because I really want to do have that, and I think a lot of people will do as well.
Thanks again, sir. Yeah, it's a good idea. We'll see what we can do.
Awesome.
Thanks for that.
Not betting for you had a thought there that you'd like to add or a question?
Yes, thank you, Church, and congratulations to everybody that's directly involved in creating the NFT Cybertooth put out. My question was actually regarding the auction because from what I was looking at, some people might have ended up with fractions of a book. And my question is actually, what happens to these fractions? Can they get their ETH back out, or is it just lost to these people who didn't manage to get a whole book together?
I have to be careful in speaking to that because I have some information. I'm not sure if I have all of the information. So the only thing I can tell you is kind of what I have been told on that. So I want to tread really lightly on that. It seems that we were not expecting that any people in the auction could buy a fraction. The auction was not intended for that. The very implicit or explicit use was that you would come in and you would and maybe someone's telling me that maybe Ree is here. So if he is here, I'd love it if we got him up on the stage because he might answer it better. But I can say that the idea was you would come and you would buy one whole ticket or precisely a whole ticket or two whole tickets, and you would then go to the vault and redeem. What we learned early on was that apparently through kind of an interface on Balancer itself, people were able to get fractions. And I know that Ree and I were in communication about it, and he began to immediately use the Copper Twitter and also some things in the Discord to tell people, please don't do that because you're not going to get an NFT. And when this auction ends, your contribution will be locked and you're in essence just going to miss out. So that has resulted in that we do have one NFT, which is, if you will, partly fractionally purchased, and it's still sitting in the vault. And so we're looking for a way to take that NFT and gift it or put it in a museum or something along those lines, because my understanding is that people that purchased that fraction, they've invested, but there is no direct return on that investment. So that's the information that I believe is accurate up until this time. But perhaps we'll figure out a better way to make use of that or to try to return some of it to them. But we had really hoped that those who had, for whatever reason, had come in and bought fractions, that they would just sell back, to the auction before the end. And I think many people did. I think we did a good job getting the word out. But there is still approximately 1/3 of one NFT, which is owned, I think, by multiple, or that was contributed to by multiple individuals. And we haven't quite figured out just exactly what we want to do about that.
Well, thank you so much for your answer. And so I do sort of make up that in the future, the intention is to make it so that people can only buy a full unit.
Yeah, so through the actual Copper auction interface, you could only buy a full unit. Anyone who obtained fractions did some clever workarounds. Why they chose to do that, I won't speculate. Obviously, they had their reasons, but it was a bit of a surprise. And yes, in the future, should further NFT drops happen on Copper, and I'm sure they will, I think you either have to decide up front whether you want to actually fractionalize the NFTs or find some way to lock out that balancer feature where people are able to sidestep the Copper platform, if you will, and get those fractions, because it was a bit of a surprise to us.
And I mean, just to add on that, that's partly like as Cyber is saying, the copper platform was set such that individuals could only buy a whole book, and it was stressed there on the site for anyone to have gained a fraction. They must have been doing it on the contract end and elsewhere. So I think that's part of the power of DeFi and letting people experiment with their own approaches to things. I don't think you can really hold anyone accountable for other people's actions in that regard. I'm sure a resolution going forward will be found one way or another for how that interacts with this launch and how it interacts with future launches.
Oh, just to be clear, I'm not one of the people that got the fractionalized part, but I was just very curious as to how it happened and what your thoughts on it would be. So thank you for your information.
Thank you for the question.
We've got one more member looking, new member looking to come up, Musa, new to the Discord, and thanks so much for your question. Not betting on fiat. It's still a really good question, even if it's not something that was under our control. It's worth being aware of. Okay, Musa's put their hand down now. I think we've got room for maybe two more questions, guys. If anyone would like to come up.
If you're here, don't forget your POAP or your Pope, however we're pronouncing that. I believe the link is in the radio hotline. And what happens often is we have 80 or some people in the activity, and then a day or two later they're like, how do I get my POAP? And the whole idea is you really should redeem, I believe, at the event as it being a proof of attendance. So if you haven't yet, take a moment to go click that link and get that. If you have any questions about it, we also can take those here.
That link's there again in the radio hotline. Oh, actually, I think the link may now be inactive. We've hit 5 p.m.
Nope.
Everyone, that may be the end. Sorry about that, Cyber. But yeah, the
Who
link
is
is
there?
just fired as you raised it again.
I have another question from Ed's my dog. He's still having microphone issues. So he says, can you please ask CybertoothKat, how do you feel about the historical significance of this launch? For example, was this the very first NFT fair market launch, or was that the Ghost Steps Tulip project? How do you think the two kind of compare and contrast as far as fair launch is concerned?
So it's really, really hard to keep up or compete with a guy like the Ghost Step. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to compare the two launches. To my understanding, the Book of Alchemy drop was the first, if you will, um, traditional style NFT show on fair launch. I know that we have the tulips there. My understanding is the focus on that is really under the use case of fractionalizing NFTs on version 2 of Copper, and what might that look like. But as far as, if you will, sort of a single artist creating a show and dropping it on fair launch, I do believe that the Book of Alchemy was the first, and I was really keen for it to be so. Initially I had some other ideas on where the drop might happen or what I might do, but when the potential to sort of be first, if you will, on Copper came up, me loving this team and the whole idea of fair launch, I said, yeah, let's take a risk and let's try that. So yeah, the history of it was really, really important to me. I do believe we're accurate when we say, this is the first NFT drop on a fair launch platform, aside from the fact that we have the sort of fractional tulip things that are happening. And I won't argue the point because, like I said, it's almost impossible to compete with a guy like the Ghost Step, and I love everything that he does. I'm a big fan of his work. So if we were, in essence, second or something like that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, thanks, Edsmadog, for that question. Looks like there might be another question, Church, down there.
Yeah, we've got one more coming up. Maha, come on up. We'd love to hear your question. Sweet. How are you doing, sir? Uh-huh.
You'll have to unmute your mic. If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Yeah. Yeah, hi guys. Hi Church. And just want to say congratulations to Cyber2 and the whole team for this successful job, you know. I just have a question about what's determined one of the entity to be most rare than the other one. Is there any specific features or time or let's say a utility for the book?
Are you speaking particularly to the keeper of the book NFT, or are you talking about all 40 of the NFTs that were in?
No, in general, you know, pretty much, you know.
Trying to understand your question. So they're all one of one. They're all rare. Each one of them is unique in a number of ways. We have the base, like if we take the card of holding for a second. We have the base version where the card is more centrally located. The music is distinct to the base version, and then if you go to like the copper, the card is repositioned, the lighting effects are different, and the lighting effects are different on every single copper. It's not as though I used a templated approach. Every single one of the NFTs, I go in there by hand and I pull that file up, and by hand I make minuscule adjustments until I think that I've achieved something that's quite unique. And that was important to me. While some of them do share the same music, because I wanted the music to be by theme, every single one of those 40 NFTs that's in that show were not replicated through digital means. I went in there with my own hand, with the artist's hand, and spent quite a bit of time finessing just exactly what the visual effects should be on every single one of those, because I didn't want anyone to own one that had too much similarity to the others, because it was very important to me that they all felt quite rare. So that's what I did to try to build in distinct rarity to every single one of the 40 NFTs. But I think there was a second part to your question. I'm not sure if I've addressed it. Maybe do you want to elaborate a little more?
Yes, the second part was like, are all the 14 cards combined into one holy meaning, right? That's what
I apologize. I'm just not entirely sure, what it is that you're asking.
right. I'm asking. I know there's 40 cards, right? There's 40 and entities, but those 40 cards they become one, you know, like one story, like he was saying, you know, it's a story, something.
Oh, yeah. Each
Right,
one of
right.
the characters that are featured in there are particular to plans that I have for the broader intellectual property called the Book of Alchemy. To give you a distinct idea of why it's called the Book of Alchemy, because I'm writing some of these stories. In the stories, there is a central element, which is actually a book. It's referred to by the alchemists that are in the story. That book is referred to as the Book of Alchemy, and the book actually is a book that's being written day by day by who they believe it's being written by, the keeper of the book, who was Oros, who is depicted in the drop. So there's this idea that every day you have this ever expanding volume of this, almost like this supernatural book, where an unseen hand is writing the relevant events of the day into the book. So it's kind of a living book. And at the end of every day, as the sun's going down, this book writes a new page of itself in the book. So the characters that you see in the cards and in the drop have either appeared in back pages of that book being relevant to the events of the day, or they will appear in future pages of that book being relevant to the events of the day. Some are a bit like sigils. Some are a bit like avatars. They're not really on ground level making events happen, but either in the past or in the future, people believe that they have a part to play in that. Some of the characters that were featured in the Cards of the Drop are deliberate characters in the current events of our story, where our story picks up. In fact, you've already kind of met the main villain, if you will, of the story that I have in mind is depicted in one of those cards. So if you have, that's why I said, I sort of hinted earlier, if you have one of those NFTs and you really want to see where it goes and how does your particular character come into play, I hope to give you plenty of story elements in the weeks and months to come to show you that there's much more happening in some of those NFTs, than just really, if you will, sort of really pretty and compelling art. There's a real story there. So I hope, having said all that, that I gave a little bit of an answer to your question.
Oh, you did. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was clear. Yes. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on stage and talking with me. I appreciate that. And thanks to everyone that's come up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha. Just wanted to add, we have extended the POAP claim to 6 p.m. UTC. There's a link in the radio hotline now, just so everyone present here has an opportunity to grab that.
6 p.m. it'll be gone. So I know there's 2 or 3 people in here that tomorrow morning are going to message me and say, "How do I get the Pope? Go get it now."
Awesome, guys. Well, if you quickly grab that link to snag your POAP for this AMA, I think that's about all we have time for, CybertoothKat. Again, is there anything else any of you wanted to cover, or?
I think
Actually, we do have one more question if you've got time. So.
Yeah, by all means, yeah. Oh, Jessica, unfortunately, it looks like you're talking, but I can't hear you.
Eat
Oh, there you
more vegetables!
Anybody with Terry Crews, anybody with Terry Crews as their avatar can't come on stage, church.
Yeah, I think the PFP there should have given that one away.
I gotta give everyone a fair chance.
I was just going to really congratulate that person too, and tell them that I used to work for the university where Terry Crews got his degree, Western Michigan University in Michigan. But yeah, I guess that fun little tidbit was lost.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming, everyone. I really appreciate you turning out to support CybertoothKat and the team and everyone who's been involved in the process. It's been a rush, and we're looking forward to the things that come next.
Thank you all so much. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll have announcements coming very, very soon about the Discord and how you can get involved.
Hey, and yeah, I'll also add that, if there's anybody here that feels like, you didn't get a question answered, or there's just something you kind of want to talk about, my DMs are open. Just reach out, and I'll do my best to kind of answer, relay, whatnot. That's kind of what I'm here for. So just, hit me up anytime.
Thanks again, everyone. I'm going to sign off now. I hope you have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mecca. See everyone soon. Thanks again, Trips.
Yeah, thank you, Church.
Be well, everyone. Talk to you later.